I live in a quiet, vine-wrapped colonial house on the edge of Charleston, South Carolina. It's a two-story with black shutters and a wide porch where I used to drink coffee on calm mornings, back when calm felt normal. The kind of home with creaky hardwood floors that groan in protest as you walk across them, and windows that shiver during summer thunderstorms. It smells like pine, citrus cleaner, and something soft and old like time. We bought the place 3 years ago for $540,000. It felt like a bargain then. Now, it feels like a beautiful cage. My name is Elena Moore. I'm 32 years old, a freelance graphic designer who works from the upstairs studio I made by tearing down the guest room wall. I grew up in Vermont, but I've lived all over Boston, Chicago, New Orleans. I thought settling down in Charleston would be the end of the chase for peace. I thought getting married would bring me the stability I'd always craved. For a while, it did. Jordan, my husband, was my anchor in the early days. He's a software engineer, quiet but clever, with that confident kind of smile people trust. We met 8 years ago at a tech conference in Denver, both pretending we were more successful than we were. I remember him cracking a joke during a cybersecurity keynote. Something about how trusting the cloud was like giving your diary to your ex. I laughed too loudly. He noticed. We went out for tacos that night and never stopped talking. We dated for 2 years, got married in a restored barn in Virginia, and moved to Charleston soon after. From the outside, we were a Pinterest-perfect couple. Smart jobs, a pretty house. Weekend brunches with friends, wine on the porch, matching bikes. But I don't think people notice. When the distance starts to grow, when your conversations become transactional, when your silences start to feel safer than your words. Looking back, I think the first real sign that something was wrong came a month before that night. Jordan started asking strange questions. Where had I been that afternoon? Did I really meet Sarah for lunch? Or was it someone else? It wasn't the questions themselves, it was the way he asked them flat measured. Like he already knew the answer and was waiting for me to lie. Still, I brushed it off. He was under pressure at work. He had just pitched a big contract to a tech firm in Austin and was pulling 14-hour days. We hadn't been intimate in weeks, but I told myself that was just stress. Everything was just stress. I think I even convinced myself I believed that. Then came Thursday night. I remember the time exactly 1:04 a.m. I had fallen asleep with the bedroom window cracked open. The wind was cool that night, and the scent of gardenias floated in from the backyard. The sheets were tangled around my legs, and I was half lost in a dream when I felt the mattress shift. Jordan moved with such care that I knew something was wrong. It wasn't the usual roll to the bathroom or sleepwalking search for Tums. This was careful, deliberate. He slid out of bed like a shadow with purpose. I kept my eyes closed. I'm not sure why. Maybe instinct, maybe fear. But I didn't move. I heard him cross the room slowly, and I registered the faintest sound, a soft click. The nightstand drawer. That's where my iPhone was plugged in, charging. I heard him pick it up. Then, the rhythmic tapping of fingers on glass. I didn't need to see it. I knew that sound. Jordan had built custom tracking software years ago for his startup, a sophisticated, hidden app meant to monitor phone behavior. It was supposed to be for corporate security, marketed to employers who wanted to track company devices. I'd seen him demonstrate it before. I even helped him design the logo for it. A minimalist blue eye over a silver grid. But now that same software was being installed on my phone. I felt a cold rush spread across my chest. My heart slammed once, then froze. Every instinct in me screamed to sit up, to ask him what the hell he was doing. But I didn't. I kept still, my breaths shallow, even. I focused on pretending to sleep while everything I knew about my marriage cracked like thin glass. Beneath a boot. He spent about 2 minutes at the nightstand. I could hear the tiny sounds of swipe here, a confirmation click there. He was methodical. When he finally returned to bed, I felt the mattress shift again. His breathing was steady. I, on the other hand, lay rigid, blinking into the darkness, listening to the digital silence between us. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, I did what I always did. I woke up, got dressed in my soft cotton robe, and padded downstairs to make coffee. Jordan followed 15 minutes later, kissing my cheek like nothing had happened. I handed him a mug like I always did and smiled like I didn't know. But something in me had changed. For most of our marriage, I had trusted him without question. Now I couldn't look at my own phone without wondering if I was being watched. I checked the app's list when he left for work. Nothing unusual at first glance. He was clever. He would have buried the software deep. I would have to dig. But before that, I needed time to breathe, to process what this meant. Was it jealousy, paranoia, control? Or had he always been like this, and I was just now waking up? Later that day, I walked the oak-lined streets of the neighborhood, clutching my phone like it was no longer mine. People waved. Dogs barked behind fences. The world moved on as if nothing had shifted. But I knew better. Something had shifted, and I wasn't sure I could ever shift it back. The morning after I pretended to be asleep while my husband installed a tracking app on my phone, I moved through the house like a ghost wearing my own skin. Everything looked the same, sunlight pouring through the kitchen window, Jordan's empty coffee mug by the sink, the faint hum of the fridge, but I felt different. I moved slower, deliberately. Every detail felt louder, sharper. I was watching the world from behind glass, and I wasn't sure how to step back into it. Jordan left for work at exactly 8:17 a.m., just like always. Kissed me on the temple and said, "Don't work too hard today." I nodded, smiling just enough to keep the performance going. I waited until I heard the garage door roll shut, the soft purr of his Tesla reversing down the driveway. Then I locked the front door, turned my phone on airplane mode, and carried it to the sunroom like it was ticking. The sunroom was my sanctuary, whitewashed walls, hanging ivy, my favorite burnt orange armchair. I had a wooden side table I'd refinished myself, scratched but still proud. I sat down with my MacBook and connected my phone. My hands trembled slightly as I launched Terminal. I wasn't a hacker by any means, but I had spent enough late nights helping Jordan debug his apps and enough college semesters freelancing on tech forums to know where to start. 10 minutes in, I found it, tucked away in the system files, buried under diagnostic data, and disguised with a name that might fool anyone else. System Health Monitor app. He wasn't even subtle. I stared at it for a long time, not clicking, just sitting with the proof. My husband had coded and installed software designed to monitor me, my phone, my life. When I opened the app's logs, my heart sank. It was all there, time-stamped and geotagged. Everywhere I'd been for the past 2 weeks. Grocery stores, coffee shops, my morning runs, even the art museum downtown where I had wandered for 3 hours last Friday, trying to clear my head, as I told him later that evening. He knew exactly where I had gone, how long I stayed, what time I left. Every move I made was being logged and silently uploaded to a private cloud storage link, tied to an IP I recognized instantly, Jordan's work server. I followed the trail, tracing the data uploads like I was watching myself in real time. There were even notes in the code, internal comments like, track frequency of deviation from routine check. For change in behavior patterns, it wasn't just a tracker. It was analyzing me. I closed my laptop and just sat there. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't hurt, but because I felt removed from myself. Like I was watching someone else discover they were being spied on by the person who had vowed to protect them. It was the kind of pain that comes in quiet waves, slow, cold, and humiliating. I made myself a cup of green tea and stood by the window while it steeped. Outside, the neighborhood was beginning its slow bustle, bikes squeaking down the sidewalk. A golden retriever tugging a teenage boy across the lawn. The echo of someone mowing 2 blocks away. The world was normal. But in here, everything had cracked open. My phone buzzed once. A calendar reminder. Dinner with Clara, postponed. I stared at it and knew who I needed to call. Clara Morgan had been my roommate in college. Back then, she was always the one with her nose in a legal textbook and her fists up in every campus debate. Now, she was a practicing attorney in Manhattan, fierce and brilliant in equal measure. She picked up on the second ring. "Elena," she said, "it's early. What's going on?" I sat back in the armchair and didn't hesitate. Jordan installed a tracking app on my phone. Last night, I pretended to be asleep, and I heard him do it. There was a beat of silence. Then, "Tell me everything." Now, I explained it all. The night before, the hidden app, the log files, the server. Clara didn't interrupt once. When I finally paused, she spoke in that clipped, razor-sharp tone she used in court. "Elena, that's not just unethical. It's criminal. In the state of South Carolina, unauthorized surveillance, especially on a spouse without consent, can be grounds for legal action. Wiretapping laws, digital privacy violations, even emotional abuse. This isn't just paranoia. This is surveillance." I exhaled, finally feeling the weight of her words. "What do I do?" "You need to document everything. Screenshots.logs.metadata. Make backups and store them somewhere he can't access. And Elena, don't confront him yet. Not until you're ready. Emotionally, legally, financially. You need a plan. But I don't want to run to court." "Not yet," I said, the hesitation in my voice betraying how unprepared I was to burn everything down. "I just want to know why he did it. I want to understand." Clara was quiet for a moment. Then she said, gently, "Then ask, but be careful. Men who spy don't trust, and men who don't trust don't like being found out." We hung up shortly after. I sat there for a long time, holding my phone like it might explode. My mind was already swirling with questions. What did Jordan think he would find? Was he convinced I was cheating? Was this how he dealt with fear? Or was this about something deeper: power, control, a need to dominate even my thoughts? The scariest part was, I didn't even feel angry yet. I felt calm to calm, like I was sliding into a different version of myself, one that had to stay one step ahead now. That afternoon, I started building a secret drive on my old backup laptop. I copied the log files. I downloaded the app's entire folder. I recorded a video of myself explaining what I have found. I even wrote a draft email to Clara with everything attached, ready to send if anything happened. It wasn't that I thought Jordan would hurt me, not physically. But now I knew he was capable of something far more invisible, something colder. And sometimes, the things you can't see are the ones that stay with you the longest. The morning Jordan left for his San Diego Tech Summit, the house felt strangely lighter. He kissed me goodbye at 5:45 a.m., suitcase in hand, his face unreadable in the half-light. I stood barefoot in the kitchen with a mug of coffee, watching him back out of the driveway like I had so many times before. This time, though, I didn't wave. I didn't even pretend. As soon as his taillights vanished down the street, I went upstairs and packed a carry-on. 3 changes of clothes, a worn paperback, my laptop, and a flash drive with every piece of digital evidence I had gathered over the past week. I booked a direct flight to Columbus, Ohio, $186 round trip. My stomach fluttered as I clicked confirm. I hadn't been to Columbus before. Jordan used to talk about it like it was just another city he'd escaped, a place full of bad memories and frozen winters. I never gave it much thought. But now, I needed to go back to where he came from. I needed to know who he had been before me. Her name was Olivia Grant. I had found her on an old LinkedIn page, still listed as a ceramic artist and studio owner in a suburb just outside Columbus. Jordan had mentioned her once, years ago. "It ended badly," was all he'd said. I never pressed. I wish I had. I sent Olivia an email the night before, short and vague. "Hi, Olivia. My name is Elena Moore. I believe you were once close to my husband, Jordan. I'm trying to understand some things and was hoping you might be willing to talk. I'll be in Columbus tomorrow. Coffee's on me, she replied 2 hours later. German Village Coffee House. Noon. I'll be wearing a green coat. It rained the entire flight. When the wheels touched down at John Glenn International, I felt a rush of nerves so strong my fingers went numb. I rented a dull silver Ford Fusion and drove through the wet, gray streets toward the small historic neighborhood Olivia had picked. German Village was quiet, charming in that old America way brick sidewalks, wrought iron fences, shops that looked like they belonged in a movie set in the 1950s. I spotted her before she saw me. She sat by the window, green trench coat draped over her shoulders, a steaming cup in front of her, her dark curls streaked with silver and pulled back loosely. She looked nothing like the woman I'd imagined from the few vague comments Jordan had ever made. She looked composed, grounded, strong. I ordered a small black coffee for $1.85 plus tip and approached her slowly. Olivia. She looked up. Her eyes were clear and sharp. Elena. We shook hands. She motioned for me to sit. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I was trying to figure out where to start. And she, I think, was trying to decide how much she wanted to give away. Finally, she said, "You're not here for small talk." I shook my head. I'm here because Jordan installed a tracker on my phone. Last week, I pretended to be asleep while he did it. Her expression didn't change, but her fingers tightened around her cup. I kept going. He built the app himself. Custom software. Logs my location. Analyzes my habits, uploads it to his private server. She closed her eyes for a long second. When she opened them again, she nodded slowly. He did it to me too. It was like the air left the room. It was simpler back then. She continued. We were 27. He didn't have his own company yet, but he was already building tools like that. Said he wanted to create the next generation of digital accountability. I thought it was harmless at first. He was obsessive, but in a way I mistook for ambition. Her voice was calm, steady. She spoke like someone who had rehearsed these words before. In silence, maybe to herself. It started with checking my phone when I left it on the kitchen counter. Then it was my laptop. Then one day, I found a GPS tracker hidden under the rear bumper of my car. I asked him about it. He said, "I thought you were seeing someone." He didn't yell, didn't get defensive, just said it like it was obvious. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until I let it out. I packed a bag that night and never went back, she said. I stared down into my coffee. My hands were trembling. Why didn't you tell anyone? She gave a small, tired smile. I tried. My sister didn't believe me, said I was overreacting. Some of our friends thought I was being dramatic. Jordan was so charming in public. Everyone loved him. People don't like to believe that someone who smiles like that could do something so invasive. So wrong. I nodded slowly. I knew that feeling now, the disorientation of watching someone you love slip into something unrecognizable and wondering if maybe it was you who had changed. I thought maybe I was the problem. I admitted that I wasn't being open enough, that maybe I was distant or cold. Olivia reached across the table and touched my hand gently. You're not the problem, she said. Jordan is. We sat there for a few minutes in silence. Outside, the rain had let up. A couple with a golden retriever walked past the window, laughing under a shared umbrella. When the check came, I paid for both of us. $9, tip included. It felt like the least I could do. I'm sorry you went through it too, I told her as we stood to leave. She shrugged. You're doing the right thing by asking questions. The sooner you see people for who they are, the sooner you can choose who you want to be. We parted ways on the brick sidewalk, her green coat disappearing into the fog. I sat in my rental car for 10 full minutes, just breathing, processing. This wasn't about jealousy. It wasn't about insecurity. It wasn't even about me. Not entirely. This was a pattern, and patterns only stop when someone breaks them. I returned to Charleston on a Sunday evening. The city was soaked from a summer storm, the streets gleaming with rain and amber streetlight reflections. My flight had landed late, and I'd driven home from the airport in silence. No music, no calls. Just the steady rhythm of my thoughts tapping against the windshield like raindrops. The house looked the same from the outside, white shutters, trimmed hedges, our porch light still flickering the way it always had. But as I stepped inside, I felt like I was walking into someone else's life. The air smelled like lemon cleaner and old wood, familiar but foreign. I stood in the foyer for a long minute, letting my eyes adjust, before walking straight into the kitchen. Jordan was sitting at the table, laptop open, a half-empty glass of red wine beside him. He looked up when he saw me, calm, unreadable, like he hadn't spent the last 3 days violating my trust. Without knowing, I discovered every detail. "You're back early," he said. I dropped my bag by the counter and walked over to the oak dining table, the one we'd bought for $3,000 from an antique store in Savannah. The same table where we'd hosted friends, shared meals, even signed our mortgage paperwork. It felt heavier tonight. "I know," I said. He tilted his head, cautious. "Know what?" I sat down across from him and met his eyes. "I know you installed the app. I know you've been tracking me." He stared at me, stone still. No anger, no shock. Just a sigh, like a man who'd been waiting for this moment and didn't quite know what to do with it. "You've been distant," he said after a pause. "You stopped talking to me. You'd disappear for hours. I thought you might be seeing someone." I blinked at him once, slowly. "So you decided to spy on me?" "I just wanted to know the truth." I laughed. Not a warm laugh, a sharp, bitter one. "The truth? You already decided what the truth was. You just wanted the evidence to justify the story you'd written in your head." He rubbed his temples. "It was a mistake. I know that." I panicked. I deleted the app the next morning. "No, you didn't," I said flatly. "You said you did, but I checked. You left the code running in the background. You didn't want to stop. You just didn't want to get caught." For the first time, I saw his expression crack just slightly. A wince, maybe. A flicker of shame. But it wasn't enough. "I talked to Olivia," I said. His head snapped up. "She told me everything. The phone, the GPS tracker on her car, how she left you the night she found it." He stood abruptly, walking over to the kitchen island and gripping the edge with both hands. His voice was lower now. "That was a long time ago. I was young. I made mistakes. You haven't changed," I said. "You've just gotten better at hiding them." The silence between us stretched for what felt like a lifetime. "Elena," he finally said, turning to face me, "please. We can fix this. I'll delete everything. I'll go to therapy. We can go together. I love you." And maybe that was the moment that told me I had to leave. Because "I love you" shouldn't sound like a bargaining chip. It shouldn't arrive after surveillance, manipulation, and betrayal. It should come before all of that or not at all. "I don't want to fix this," I said quietly. "I don't want to stay in a marriage where I have to guard my phone, where I sleep with one eye open." He stepped toward me. "So what? You're just going to walk away?" I stood to, slowly, calmly, double quotes, "Yes, I am." I didn't wait for another word. I walked upstairs, packed a suitcase, and booked a short-term rental in Asheville, a small craftsman-style bungalow with lemon-colored curtains and creaky floors. The rent was $2,100 a month, but the silence there didn't feel threatening. It felt free. By Wednesday, I had signed a 6-month lease. I hired a moving company. Jordan didn't try to stop me. Maybe he realized he'd already crossed a line I couldn't uncross. In Asheville, the air felt different, cooler, cleaner. I set up my workspace by the front window, surrounded by sketches, paints, and the smell of fresh pine. I started painting again, abstract pieces, mostly. Things that didn't have to make sense to anyone else. I saw Clara when I visited the city. We went out for cocktails in a rooftop bar, and she toasted to the death of surveillance and the birth of peace. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. But not every day was easy. Some nights, I still check my devices twice. I disable Bluetooth and keep my phone in airplane mode. I keep looking over my shoulder for the ghost of a man who no longer has access to me, yet still lives in the habits he forced me to build. The healing is slow, uneven, but it's happening. The neighbors wave when I walk past their porches. I joined a local art collective. I even bought a bicycle blue with a wicker basket and ride it to the market every Saturday morning. The other day, I caught myself humming while organizing spices in the kitchen. That's how I know something is shifting. I'm not the same woman who lay in bed pretending to sleep at 1:04 a.m. while her husband slipped into digital silence behind her back. That woman had doubts, fear, and the hope that maybe it was all in her head. Now, I trust the voice that wakes me up in the middle of the night. The one that whispers, "Pay attention. You're not crazy. You're just finally seeing clearly." I don't know what's next. I don't know if I'll ever remarry, or if I even want to. But I know this: the moment you have to pretend to be asleep to protect yourself from the person lying next to you, that's the moment something inside you wakes up. And once it does, you never go back to silence.